Have you ever painted a room and then stepped back and thought, why does this feel off? What happened here? First home that I bought, I was in my mid-20s, and there was this really pretty like sunroom. It was an old 1920 craftsman home, like a little tiny bungalow, 2-bedroom, 1-bath, and there was like a porch off the back that had been converted into interior part of the home, and it had this beautiful view, and I wanted the outside to really come in. So I was like, oh, I'm gonna paint like a really pretty kind of blue-green to bring in the outside. And when I did that, I picked this color called eucalyptus, and I was like, oh, this is perfect. It's gonna be this, you know, beautiful natural tone. I painted the entire room. It took forever. It was a headache. It was kind of my first time taking on that big of a paint job. And it was mint green. I still haven't admitted it to my mom to this day because my mom almost puked when she saw the color. And I was like, oh no, I love it. It's great. It was terrible. My mom said it reminded her of this time when she was a little girl and she had to be in the hospital for a really long time. And anyways, I'm here to help you. This is a video on how to choose a paint color, all the things that you need to know from a designer's perspective. Let's get into it. So let's talk a little bit about paint colors and why it feels so hard to choose paint. I think besides the fact that there's endless amounts of options, there's something called light that reflects off of paint or doesn't reflect off of the paint depending on the kind of paint you get. And it really changes the paint color. What you see on a swatch and what you see on the computer very rarely will turn out the same in your actual home. Different facing homes, so whether you're north or south, east or west, also brings in different types of lighting into your home. Different areas of the exterior of your home, the paint will look different, again, depending on how the lighting is. So I want to get into 3 concepts people skip when they're picking their paint colors, and this is undertones, the LRV, cool versus warm, hidden values in paint. So let's get into that. So when you have north or south facing home, whatever it is, the sun is gonna either go directly over your home, it's gonna hit like side to side, it's gonna hit from the front to the back, depending on where your windows are and how your light comes into your home. All of that is going to affect the color of your room. A couple years ago, a kitchen that we remodeled, and we wanted a warm white tone, but the family didn't like yellow undertones. So we went with a white that had a little bit of a pink undertone. And most of the time it was perfect. It really ended up being fine anyways, but the sun would set in this kitchen because that's where direction that their house was facing. The sun would come around and the sun would come in, and the sun would be setting right in where their kitchen windows were. Automatically is gonna have warmer tones to it because the sunrise and the sunset are a little more orange and pink versus when the sun is at the highest point of the day. Pink undertones in their cabinet color really came out in the evening, and it's something that we knew, but until it was painted, we didn't realize how much the pink was gonna come out. Now we have the tile and the countertops and everything all had those kind of pink undertones, so it all turned out great. It all worked out really well. It's just a good example of what colors and what values in your paint will come out depending on what kind of light it gets at what time of day. So also going back to that story of the kitchen, another thing that is really important to think about is whether it has the cool undertones or the warm undertones. That pink undertone of this white paint was highlighted by the fact that the sun set in the windows of that room in the evening. And so if you don't like those pink undertones, something you could do to counteract that would be to choose a white paint that has a cool undertone. So then it would balance. You're still gonna get that sunset light in your room, but the white paint will balance better with a cool undertone, and it will keep it from feeling so pink. Having those cool and warm undertones is something to think about too, just in kind of a vibe you want. Do you want like a beachy, blue, green, relaxed, kind of cool feel to it, but you like a white, you want a white room? If you pay attention to that cool undertone, like Sherwin-Williams, I'm putting together this whole paint guide for you guys. It's gonna be great. It's gonna have 4 different like typical styles of homes you can choose from. It's gonna have paint schemes for different rooms, various rooms of the house. Also, this is gonna be a 4-part series, so make sure you stick around every Monday for the next 4 weeks to get each part of this paint series. It's really exciting. Most websites, so like Sherwin-Williams, which I use mostly, tell you what the undertones of a lot of their popular colors are. I don't know that it says it for every single color that they have, but for their more popular colors, it'll tell you whether it's a cool undertone, a brown undertone, a violet undertone, a pink undertone, a yellow undertone. So make sure that you pay attention to that as well. When you're picking out your paint colors, you're gonna want to make sure that it's giving off that feel that you want. If you know you like a warm, cozy environment, you want it to feel like a sunrise or a sunset, you want it to feel like it's just wrapping you, then you want a warmer color. If you want something that's just really calming, that's cooler, that is, you know, like the breeze of the ocean, then you're probably gonna enjoy more of a cooler undertone. Or even if you want like an industrial vibe that's just like you like metals and sharper tones, again, the cooler undertones are probably gonna be more your vibe. Or maybe you have a lot of sharp like rock, stone, metals in your home and you want to balance that, then you would want to go with a warmer undertone to help balance out all of those harder, cooler materials that are already in your space. So the third thing that I really wanted to talk about is LRV. It stands for light reflectance value. It's used in a lot of different contexts, not just in paint. Architecture and graphic design and things like that will use LRV as a tool as well. So it goes from 0 to 100, 0 being dark as you can get, and 100 being reflecting a ton of light, pretty much as light as you can get. And so this is important to pay attention to. Again, most websites for paint will tell you what the LRV of the paint is. When you have a low LRV, which is like 20 and under, expect it to be dark. Even if you're looking at it online and it seems like, oh, well, it's more of a mid-tone gray, but that LRV is like 12, it's going to be dark. It's not going to reflect a lot of light. It's going to absorb the light, and that's good depending on what you want. Other thing about having a darker or a lower LRV is that it's not going to change color as much because of the way that it lacks the reflectiveness. So that could be good as well if you're wanting a color that looks the same in the shade versus it does in the sun. Obviously it'll be darker in the shade and lighter with sun directly on it, but the tone will change less because it's not reflecting as much light. It'll be more true to the tone regardless of corner of the room or how the light is hitting it. So on the lighter side, the great part of that is obviously it's going to reflect a ton of light. It's going to be nice and bright in the room. You're gonna find a lot of range of like off-whites in the like 60 to 100 range. So some of these are gonna feel even like taupey or gray, like they're not necessarily just white, even largely like in that 60 to 70 range as well. But they're still gonna make the room feel brighter. It's gonna reflect a lot of light, and yeah, give you that brightness that you want. You will also pull the colors that are coming into the room. So if it's LEDs that are really blue or your sunset light that's coming through the windows, it will change the color of the paint more when you get into those higher reflective values. Okay, and then one of the last pieces that I just wanted to touch on is making sure you're really intentional with testing your paint and your swatches. You can absolutely buy paint samples and test them around the room, do nice big swatches, and do a minimum of 2 coats, unless you're gonna put a primer down first. Even then, I would say 2 coats. Like whatever's on your wall already is going to change the look of your paint, even if it's a white. So like I have white walls, but I have Sherwin-Williams white duck on my walls, and it has a very brown undertone. You can even, I think, tell right now in this lighting that a very warm color. So if you're trying to put a cool color on top of it, it's going to pull the warm tone from the paint underneath, and you are not going to get an accurate read on what that color is like. My favorite thing to do, and I am not sponsored by this company, but hit me up if anybody from Samplize is watching, because I recommend this to all of my clients, and I'm sure I'll bring it up again here on YouTube. I don't know what their process is, but it's like the actual paint on like 8.5 by 11 sheets that have like a peel and stick, so you can move them around the room and see what they look like in different lighting at different times of day. I think that is the absolute best way to go. You don't have to actually paint a bunch of swatches all over your walls. You don't have to buy little cans of paint. It's not a mess, it's easy, and it is very accurate, I have found, and that's just a great company and a great way to do it. So please test your paint. Anything that you see on the computer and anything you see on those little tiny paint chips that you get from, you know, your Sherwin-Williams or whatever paint you're using, those aren't even really painted, they're like printed, right? And so it's not super accurate even on those little swatches. So I cannot stress enough, even as a designer, to this day, I very rarely will go ahead and paint without accurately testing the paint first. I just need to know the lighting in the home, how it's working with other materials. I'll talk more about that in other videos, but like making sure that you're not just pulling in an undertone or a vibe that isn't going on anywhere else in your house, especially if all you're doing is painting, you're not changing everything. Yeah, so do some testing and use Samplize. If you don't feel like doing some paint swatches around your room, pay attention to the LRV, pay attention to the undertones, pay attention to the lighting in your room. Does it get a lot of natural light? Does the light change throughout the day? Those are all super important things. And make sure to pick up my paint guide if you are painting anytime soon. It's gonna have mid-century, traditional, industrial, and Scandinavian paint schemes. If you don't know, like, oh, I don't know what my style is, this is also a great guide for you because it's just gonna do the work for you. It's gonna have kitchens, bedrooms, bathrooms, movie rooms or dens, different rooms, different paint schemes, but then all of those will go together as a whole as well. It talks again about the LRV and different ways to think through picking your paint for your room, and it's all Sherwin-Williams colors because they're my favorite. They can sponsor me too if they find this video. Stick around for next week's part 2 on this 4-part paint series, and I'll see you there.